Emergency Broadcast, Crimson Alert, Chapter 9. It was odd, working with someone who had earlier tried to kill me, but I had no choice. I couldn't find Rosie and Kane, and Mickey had just saved my life. If it was out of the goodness of his heart or just his own insanity, I'll never know. I walked slowly behind him, watching his axe. At any moment, he could turn around and cleave my head off, like he'd done to Moloch. But how had he done that? More importantly, how had I managed to injure him? Those bullets hadn't been anything special, and neither had his axe, as far as I knew. Speaking of bullets, I found it harder to reload this pistol than I first thought. I'd tried to, but I had such trouble with it that I very nearly gave up, until the spare clip slipped in. Even so, none of the bullets had seemed to have crosses engraved on them or anything like that. So how had they hurt a demonic creature like Moloch? Faith, my granddad said. Faith is a powerful thing. You've got a little bit of it, not a lot, but just enough to keep you safe for what's coming. I sighed, then stuck out a hand in my pocket, and stopped. Mickey did the same without so much as missing a beat.
"Why did you stop?"
he said in an infantile voice.
"We need to find my shoe."
"I'm missing a rosary," I said, digging around in my pockets. "Have you seen it?" Mickey's head tilted to the side.
"What's a rosary? Does it have my shoe?"
Oh boy. I sighed, shaking my head. "No," I answered. "I don't think so." We resumed walking. I didn't want to talk, still wary of the crazy person with an axe capable of killing demons. But silence can be an unbearable thing. Then I noticed something. I looked up to the sky. The scars were gone.
"Oh,"
said Mickey.
"Are you looking for the scars?"
I spun around to face him. You know of the scars as well?" Mickey nodded slowly.
"He's on the other side of them,"
he said.
"Mommy's boyfriend."
My eyes widened slowly. "Your mommy's... what?"
"Mommy has to be his girlfriend,"
Mickey continued softly.
"because Haman said so."
I was about to say something else when I heard a click behind me. "Hands where we can see them," said a human voice. Great, more soldiers, and this time I didn't have Beelzebub to save me. I did as I was told, holding up my hands slowly. I fully expected to be shot on the spot, until a new voice spoke up. "Is it him?" he said. It was a rich, low voice, with a distinctively dark edge to it. I felt a chill go up my spine as footsteps slowly approached me. Mickey didn't move at all, just looking at someone behind me.
"He saw the scars,"
he said softly.
"Mr. Haman, he saw the scars."
That made me spin around. He was a tall man with a dark beard and cruel eyes. He wore a suit and tie which was entirely out of place in this hellhole. Behind him were several soldiers, who were all pointing their guns at me. He chuckled. "Very good, young one," he said with a perfect English accent. "Very good. Your mother will be most happy." Then he turned to me. "So, you're the one, the boy whose grandfather beat the devil. I was expecting something more impressive. My master is waiting for you." Then a smirk appeared on his lips. "And your girlfriend, Jenny, isn't that her name?" My eyes widened. "What have you done to her?" I hissed, lowering my hands and taking a few steps forward. "I swear to God, if you set one hand on her..." He moved faster than I thought possible, slamming a fist into my stomach. I groaned as the wind was knocked out of me, slumping over onto the ground. He chuckled. "You swear to God? To the Hebrew Sky King, sitting in the clouds, watching all this." He swept a hand outward, taking in the entire town in one gesture. "Suffering and bloodshed. That mongrel has abandoned this place." A fist slammed into my back, forcing me to my knees. I glanced up, just in time to see his foot filling my vision before everything went black. When I woke up, I was laying on a concrete floor, surrounded by sounds of weeping and moaning. A roof was above my head, from which hang hooks and chains. I groaned as I sat up, bumping into something. I turned around to see an elderly woman, her knuckles bleeding, back turned to me as she chanted something over and over. There were other people nearby, several dozen of them, all huddled together, crouching on the floor. I began to stand up. "Hey!" I turned to see a soldier nearby, pointing his gun at me. "On the ground, now!" I did as I was told. "This isn't happening," said a voice nearby. I turned sharply to see a man with a bloody gash where his ear should be. "This can't be happening. This can't be happening. This can't be happening." "Hey!" whispered a familiar voice. I turned to see Rosie nearby. "Hey, cuntbag. Glad you're alive." "What happened?" I whispered back. "We got attacked by some soldiers and that 8-legged freak." "Moloch. He's dead." Rosie's eyes widened. "Oh crap, really? Thank God, but... Look, Kane's gone. I don't know where he went, but they grabbed me and dragged me here." "Why?" Rosie answered me by pointing at the center of the warehouse. I followed her finger. The first thing I noticed was a pit of fire, surrounded by a catwalk. Haman was marching along it as soldiers dragged people up to it, then threw them into the fire. They screamed only briefly before being shot dead, the soldiers turning away. Others were throwing in white discs of bread, golden objects with religious iconography on them. Christian, Islamic, Jewish, even Buddhist. "What the fuck?" I said, stunned. Then a man in black robes with a long white beard was dragged up. A rabbi. Haman stopped, grinned, and marched over to him. "Well," he laughed, voice filling the warehouse. "Another one? How pleasant. Tell me, do you know who I am?" The rabbi paused, gazing into his face. His eyes widened. "You," he said. You live." "Did you really think some silly whore and her bastard of a cousin could kill me? Me? Would you like to hear what I've been doing all these years?" Haman became thoughtful. "There was a time during the First Crusade. I was with one Count Emiko. Pride is such an easy thing to manipulate. Then there was Germany. That was my favorite time. Back in the 1930s, when hate was at its height, and Hitler swayed the crowds with my guidance." The rabbi spat in his face. "Rat!" he shrieked, struggling against the soldiers holding his arms. "You vile little rat! You despicable cur! Jehovah will strike you down and send you to Gehenna. You will burn." Haman barely even flinched. Instead, he took out a cloth from his pocket, slowly wiped his face, then grabbed the rabbi by the beard, pulling him in close. "No!" he hissed, so loudly everyone else went quiet, turning to watch. "You burn." Then he grabbed him by the arms, turned and flung him into the pit. The rabbi screamed. "Don't kill him," Haman shrieked, turning to the soldier. "Don't. His suffering will be long." Then he turned back to the pit, a sick light in his eyes. He smiled, leaned in close, and inhaled through the nostrils. Then laughed. "He's done that with every rabbi they've found," Rosie whispered. "And it's not just priests or rabbis they've burned. I've even seen a few imams thrown in there." "Why?" I said, voice hoarse. Why are people helping him?" "Look, don't trust me on this, but..." Rosie was cut off when the doors of the warehouse slammed open. When I turned over to see, I inhaled sharply. It was Beelzebub, accompanied by those demonic werewolves. But that wasn't the most shocking thing. No. It was a man standing in front of him, wearing a green uniform with medals on his breast. His eyes surveyed the warehouse, widening with blatant rage. Then they settled on the man on the catwalk. Haman! He shrieked, marching forward. Beelzebub followed behind, his pets at his heels. General, Haman called back. You're finally here. What in the fuck are you doing? This is needed, Haman shot back. If you wish to ensure your country becomes a dominant power in the world, these sacrifices must be made. Sacrifices? The general spat. He gestured to the people in the corner. Look at these people. They're Americans. They don't deserve to be treated like this. Why not? Haman retorted. Why not? I've already ensured that the gates to hell will open, and an army to conquer this world will be yours. I don't want an army, the general shot back. I want my son. I may have agreed to this, but that doesn't mean you're the one in charge. No, Haman said, eyes narrowed. It means you're a hypocrite. You come in here, furious at what I've done, when it was all part of something you agreed to. I've changed my mind, the general growled. The deal's off. Haman chuckled, before glancing at Beelzebub. Kill him. No, Beelzebub answered. What? Haman sputtered. Who do you think told me what was actually going on? The general growled. He jerked a thumb at Beelzebub. This guy. Seems even fallen angels think you're a cunt. Moloch, Haman cried. Moloch is dead, Beelzebub answered. I saw it happen myself, and so is Valak. Both have returned to hell. Haman's eyes widened. No, he said. You cannot do this to me. I am the main servant of Helel. Then he glared at Beelzebub. You rebelled against God. Now you turn against me? I did, Beelzebub muttered. I turned against the Lord, against Allah. But that does not mean I am devoid of honor. I am the Lord of the hunt, not Lord of the slaughter. And this has gone too far. There was a silence as people stared at the two figures, stunned beyond belief. A few of those huddling nearby began to rise up off the ground. Then Haman laughed again. I always knew this would come, he said, a smug smirk on his face, and have made the necessary precautions. What? The general said, drawing a pistol and leveling it at Haman. Then one of the soldiers began screaming. I turned to see one of them doubling over, clutching their stomach. When they screamed, their helmet fell off, revealing the face of a woman. What have you done? Beelzebub said softly. Hellhounds. He whistled, and the demonic werewolves, hellhounds, by his side, charged forward, going right for the woman as she fell onto her back, still screaming. I could see her thighs becoming wet from here with water and blood. There was a flash and the hellhound shrieked, the flashing of an axe blade flying up and down as a plastic Mickey Mouse mask became stained with blood.
No,
he said calmly.
No hurt, Mommy.
The woman shrieked again. Did you know, Haman said coolly, that there is no such thing as the Antichrist, a child born of Satan and a human woman who will bring about the end of the world? Of course, Haman smiled, gesturing to Mickey. That doesn't mean it is impossible to produce a child of such origin. One of the hellhounds struck Mickey, knocking away his mask. The face underneath was a lumpy, tumorous overgrowth, covered in scorch marks and blisters with dark eyes. He cried and swung his axe, plunging between the hellhound's eyes. There was a blast and I ducked down, turning to see the general's pistol had fired. I looked back to a still smirking Haman. Do you really think human weapons can save you now? I've been alive longer than Christ was born. I've learned a few things. The woman continued screaming. The general spun around and began barking orders, demanding that the soldiers nearby do something. Then the screaming stopped, and a crack split the air. I turned back to the prone, still form of the soldier. A bloody hand, wrist wrapped in a golden chain, burst forth from it. Then it settled onto the ground beside the body. He's here, Beelzebub said, raising his glaive and pointing it at the corpse. Another arm, also shackled by a golden chain, emerged, landing on the other side. Both hands pushed upward. A head emerged from the stomach, Long, white hair, stained by blood, descended from his temples. Broad, lean shoulders followed as a naked torso, perfectly muscled, pushed itself upward. The head whipped upward, revealing a red star on his forehead. Eyes closed. The man's hands left the floor as the rest of his body rose up slowly from the dead woman. "You bastard," the general muttered, turning his pistol to the man. "Go to."
No.
The man said, and snapped his fingers. The general's head twisted over his shoulders, turning a full 180 degrees. His body fell backward with a dull thud. "No," the man said again. He hovered above the ground, blood dripping from his feet. "No, there will be no interruptions." Floating across a dead woman beneath him, his feet lightly touching the ground, and he took a few steps forward. I saw his footprints, left in blood. They were a V, with a straight line down the middle. The man sighed, and his eyes opened, focusing on me instantly. They shimmered like a crow's wing. "Rejoice," said the man softly. "Come, reach out, and touch faith."